Good evening and welcome to CB8 Speaks. I'm Dave Menegon, a member of Community Board 8. And tonight we are going to be interviewing some of the Knickerbocker Greys. They belong to the oldest after-school activity in the country here in New York City, founded in 1881. I'm also a member of the Youth and Education Committee. CB8 is comprised of volunteers that are appointed by the borough president, and we have 2-year terms. So tonight, I'd like to have the cadets introduce themselves. Andre, and we'll just go around, each one just say what school you go to and how old you are.
I'm 15, and I go to Hunter College High School.
My name is Perrin Tomlin, and I attend the High School of Environmental Studies.
Hi, I'm Aiden Irick, and I go to St. Bernard School.
I'm Abby, and I go to the Spence School.
I'm August Larson, and I go to MS-245, also called the Computer School.
I'm James McDermott. I go to St. Bernard's, and I'm in 6th grade.
Welcome, and thank you for coming on the program today. I know there's a long history of the Knickerbocker Greys. You've been in the city for over 135 years. You were founded in 1881. And Perrin, why don't you give us a history about the Knickerbocker Greys?
Well, that's correct. Yes, we started all the way back in the year 1881, back when, you know, there's a lack of after-school activities and such. It was started by a woman by the name of Mrs. Curtis, and she was the wife of a surgeon in the Union Army back in the day. And she started this program for different kids in the city to come together and drill every week and, you know, work on their core values and become better.
Why do you think Mrs. Curtis started the Greys for her 2 sons?
Having something constructive for young boys to do, and later on girls, it builds character.
So you meet weekly at the Armory on Park Avenue?
Yes, we meet every Tuesday from 5 to 6.
And what do you do during the drills at the Armory?
Usually we focus on building, as Perrin said, core values such as manners, drilling, discipline, all those good factors that will help cadets in life.
Cadets will also occasionally give history lessons on various topics, gives them a chance to learn how to talk in front of others.
So the drill and ceremony, what is the drill and ceremony used as?
Drill and ceremony will develop confidence in some of the lower cadets and leadership in some of the older officers. And they learn discipline and they learn how to respect their officers in command and follow orders.
I saw you brought some interesting photographs of the Knickerbocker Greys going back 135 years. You have one photograph of the first armory that you were in. Where was that in 1881, the first armory?
Well, the first armory was on 71st Street. In 1881, it burned down, and we moved to the Park Avenue Armory on 66th Street.
Very interesting. The one photograph that you have of the Park Avenue Armory is very interesting. It's of the cadets on the drill floor in 1902. And you've been in the Armory and Park Avenue for over 100 years. It's very impressive. And you've had some very interesting cadets in the Greys over the years. You brought one photograph of one of the cadets in 1908, which is Douglas Fairbanks Jr.
Yes.
I noticed that he lived here on the Upper East Side. His father was an actor, and so was he. That's an interesting photograph, and thank you for bringing that. What do you like about the Knickerbocker Greys?
Well, I personally enjoy it because not only do we learn great values and leadership skills, but we also learn some knowledge on various topics, as Andre said. But we also get to go to some events that require presenting the colors with a color guard, and this is usually consisted of about 6 people or 4 people.
So you know how to present the colors. That's very difficult.
Yeah.
That's very good. What type of field trips have you gone on? I understand you've done on a couple of trips.
We went to West Point. We go to Civil War reenactments, and we have like games and parties, and we march in the Veterans Day Parade.
That's excellent.
We've also been to Philadelphia to study the little bit of the Congress and their history. We've visited historic sites all over, and I believe we've visited Gettysburg.
I think one of you mentioned that you visited Gettysburg a couple of years ago. And Andre, you told me earlier that the cadets also go to performances in the city, such as Gilbert and Sullivan performances and the Metropolitan Opera.
Get the kids cultured. These days, certain areas of society don't get enough exposure to our history and also various areas of the arts that have since been neglected. So it's just a chance to expose kids to all areas of life.
I find it very interesting. What's the age group of the Greys?
Well, the ages of cadets usually range from 6 to 18, and after that, kids usually head off to college.
Now, you called it the Corps of Cadets. How are you organized?
Well, we are organized in multiple different companies, A company, B company, C company, each consisting of a company commander with a guide on, and it's structured as sort of like a family unit that becomes developed over the drill weekdays, and yeah, it's very organized and very helpful towards our cause.
Now, I notice the uniforms are very impressive. How far back does this uniform go?
Well, the uniforms have remained mostly the same since the Greys were founded. With a few alterations, we no longer walk around in Knickerbocker pants during the drills, but for the most part, this is what a Grey would have worn 130 years ago.
I see the different medals that you're wearing. Could you describe maybe a couple of the medals and awards that you receive and why you get them?
The Sentinel Medal is awarded to the best first-year cadet at the end of the year.
What other medals do you have?
Well, I have the Albert Herring Award, and he actually was a former Grey who became a paratrooper in a famous battle and then later on died, but mainly these medals are for leadership skills and development in character.
I noticed the attendance medal you have, and it's very impressive. It looks like an old die cast in the symbol with the crossed rifles and the Knickerbocker Grey shield. This goes back to 1881?
Yep, 100% attendance medal. Well, since kids are so enthusiastic to get one, we ran out of them. And so I got to pick up this nice antique one from good 150 years ago, celebrate my nice attendance.
What type of classes do you teach?
Well, we teach about wars and historical events. Usually, one cadet, through their time as a cadet, does around 3 or 4 presentations, or 2, and I've already done a presentation on the Mexican-American War.
Andre, did you teach a class?
Yeah, when I first joined, so when I was about 11, so good 5 years ago, I did a class on the Anaconda Plan, which was nice little complex war stratagem at the beginning of the Civil War.
Interesting. So you go out and you do public speaking. I'm a member of the Youth and Education Committee on Community Board 8, and I was very impressed that you came to the Community Board 2 months ago and speak. That's why you're here. It's great to see that there's cadets of different ages that get along. Do you belong to many organizations in the city where you have such a diverse group of ages?
No.
Apart from the Boy Scouts, we're kind of unique.
Yeah, it's very unique. And I noticed that you have girls in the Greys. When did girls start coming into the Knickerbocker Greys?
I think in 1986, and we had a lot of female cadet colonels, and I plan to be one of the next ones.
Excellent. That's great. Has anybody decided what they want to be when they grow up?
Decided on between either a designer, an architect, or an engineer. I love engineering. My family has a long line of architects and engineers that have worked for famous car companies and other companies and architecture firms and things like that.
I have decided between a architect, as Augie wants to be, or a city planner. I take interest in how traffic flows in cities and how they function, and I think it's a cool job to have.
That's
As
very
of James and Andre, I very much so like architecture and engineering, as on both sides my grandfathers were architects and engineers.
Very good. Why should a young man or woman join the Knickerbocker Greys? What do you think would be interesting for them to join?
I think it would be very good for them because it'd be a great experience that they, I promise, will love to have, because you build so many friendships and you build on so many core values while you're staying with the Greys that it's incomparable. It's incomparable to any other place in the city, probably. Being the longest running after-school program in this country, there's only so many core values that we have that we can put onto young cadets that you can find anywhere else. So that's why I think.
And also, how many other organizations are there in the city or in the state where you get to march in the Veterans Day Parade, you get to go to various balls that you usually wouldn't go to until you're 20-something, and where else do you get to meet people like this?
So Augie, tell me about your first experience when you joined the Greys and how you've changed being in the organization for so many years.
Well, I joined the Greys. I was notified by a friend who was already in the Greys. His name was Hugh, and I came to one of our reviews, which is a review of our skills that we've learned in marching and drill and ceremony every 6 months. And I decided I wanted to join the Greys. On my first day, I was taught all of the different commands and what to do. And I was taught of the different ranks as well. And I was a little bit nervous, not too scared though. And eventually I learned everything. I ranked up and I learned to have empathy for the smaller kids, cadets.
That's great. How about you, James?
Well, I joined because my best friend from preschool, because I was going into first grade, and we hadn't seen each other in a long time, and this was an opportunity for us to get to see each other every week. So my friend and I came down to the armory, and my best friend was very nervous. He was crying, and he said he never wanted to come, and I just came in, and I learned the skills, and I came through the ranks. I got to command my first company in my first year. I think I've gotten better and better at it and showed my cadets, and my cadets have shown more improvement.
You must be very patient to be able to teach younger cadets how to march and the drill and ceremony and teaching classes.
Yes, once I started, I realized how difficult it was, but then now it's easier to deal with rowdy kids who will try to annoy you.
So what have you learned? Patience in teaching?
Yep. When you develop leadership skills, you also develop patience and leadership, and yeah.
Very good. Do you do any community service in the Greys? I know that you spoke a little bit about the Park Avenue Armory and the shelter for women.
Yes, I think on Valentine's Day, we actually write cards to the women in the shelter, make them feel good.
And also, at Christmas, we gave coats, hats, and gloves for the shelter so they could keep warm and stay warm.
That's great. So you've been in the Army for 115 years. When do you drill, and what are the drills like?
Well, we usually drill every Tuesday from 5 to 6. We meet up and we talk about what we want to practice through that day, and through the time that we're there at the armory. And we split up into our separate companies, and we usually drill separately on what the company commanders think we need to work on. And at the end of drill, we come together and we practice what we've learned as one corps.
Or sometimes we might learn classes from various students or our cadet colonel.
Very good.
And on occasion, we'll also go into the park and get a little lesson in how to chart out, create topographical maps, or how to rescue wounded soldiers. Sometimes we can get into more interactive activities. Keeps the kids' blood flowing.
Other experiences you've had in the Greys you want to share that you've really enjoyed?
I've enjoyed a lot of the color guards. My dad just hosted a color guard at the Century Club, which was a lot of fun, and we got to post the colors and then watch a show.
Yeah, well, we've had a lot of opportunities to do some really cool things here at the Greys, such as We even worked the color guard at an event where we were able to, all of us, meet General Petraeus, which was very, very cool experience, you know, to meet such a high man. We also, we took a trip, as Abby said before, we took a trip to West Point, which was a great experience to see our work, basically what we do every week at, you know, sort of at a higher volume, you know, at a college, which was very interesting to see them do their review, and that was a really nice experience.
How do parents and other young men and women hear about the Greys, and how are you getting new kids into the program?
Well, for most of our history, it's been through word of mouth. But we've recently been moving out into the open. We recently spoke before the community board, got the word out there. Of course, we're running this interview here. So we're hoping to increase knowledge about the Greys and hopefully increase the number of cadets we have so we can continue to grow.
I think also mainly by word of school. I actually, before I joined, on the way home on the bus, I saw one of my fellow colleagues, Henry Hunt and Hugh McLaughlin, and I was like, oh, what is this? And they explained the Greys to me, and then I soon later found out James was in the Greys as well, and I made the decision to join, because why not?
I've seen the Greys in quite a bit of the media. I know you've been in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Sun. You've been on TV in the past. It's a very interesting organization, and it's unique to the Upper East Side. It's amazing to me that all these institutions exist in New York City, and this is one of the oldest organizations, I believe. So, James, please tell me, when did you first join the Greys, and why do you enjoy it, and why do you stay?
Well, I joined when I was 6 in first grade, and I stayed because I enjoy the feeling of learning these skills that the Greys teaches me, being responsible of a company, and progressing through the ranks further and getting, just progressing as a person.
I joined when I was about 7 years old. I love the Greys. It's a lot of fun. We get to do a lot of unique stuff, and I also stay in because I would like to progress up through the ranks, and hopefully one day get to be cadet colonel.
I joined when I was 8, and I like staying in the Greys, because I think it's really fun to hang out with some of the older cadets and learning more responsibilities.
I joined the Greys when I was about 8, and I think all the events that we do are very fun and interesting. I also like learning about the various topics, but I also think it's fun to really experience how it was back in 1881, as far back as something like that. It feels very special to be part of something that old.
You're a part of living history, being in the Greys.
Yes.
I joined the Greys back when I was 5 years old, and I'm 15 now, so yeah, I've been a part of it for 10 years, and I'm the current cadet colonel, and I've got to say I've enjoyed, as James said, progressing up the ranks, and not only that, but being able to teach new coming cadets, you know, watch them go up the ranks, which is a great experience to have, you know, just watching, you know, the fruits of your labor, you know, the kids growing up, and that's truly a great experience.
I joined when I was 10, and it's been about 5 years now. I'm 15, and I'm a major, and I think the main reason why I stay in the Greys is that all the people I meet here are just so intelligent and wonderful, and I think the friends that I make here and the memories that I make here will last a lifetime.
You talked about leadership. Tell me your opinion. What do you think leadership is?
Well, I think it's being able to be responsible over what you have to do and not putting what you have to do off, procrastinating. I think it's also being in charge of, in the Greys, it's being in charge of cadets and being a company commander, officer, and being able to not abuse your rank and being a fair person in general.
I also think that a very important point of leadership is confidence.
So you've had a lot of experience, as it sounds, through the Greys that have really developed a confidence. It must be difficult to get up in front of a large audience in some of the clubs to present the flags and know what to do.
Yes, it's very, very difficult. I've had a few times when I've gotten a little bit nervous, but I usually overcome my fears and just get it done
That's why we're
Correctly.
speaking right now. Yeah.
correctly.
All doing a great job.
It's also confident when we do all those drills every Tuesday. As you get very familiar with it, and it just becomes something you don't even think about, right? You become very confident in what you do, especially in front of an audience.
When you're posting the colors or speaking in front of a large audience of complete strangers, you know that there are at least 3 or 4 other kids with you who are feeling the exact same thing that you are. And you know that when you leave that stage or leave that theater, then they'll be there to talk about it with you.
How can parents find out about the Greys if they're interested once they see this interview to get their kids involved? How can they get the information?
Well, we have a website on the internet that has a homepage, and you can learn all about the Greys if you want. You can visit that website and learn about all the field trips and what we do in the drill and all that type of good stuff that you might want to learn before joining.
Well, the website is knickerbockergreys.org. Is that correct?
Yes.
Very good. How are you recruiting to get more girls in the Greys? Because we have one here and you're outnumbered.
We went to my all-girls school, and one of the girls in, I think, first grade got their brother in. So I'm hoping for some more kids in my class to come and join.
We've also had the most recent former cadet colonel. Her name was Neef, and I believe she was one of our best cadet colonels that we've ever had.
Was she cadet colonel when you were in the Greys?
She was for a while. She was. We did have some other people in high command, but Neef was one of the main cadet colonels.
When Neef was cadet colonel, why did you think she was a great cadet colonel?
Because she had a lot of responsibility. She was a very, very good leader. She always knew what to do. She always did everything correctly, and she just made a great leader.
I think mainly also because she was intimidating, and you didn't want really to do something wrong in front of her. You wanted to be right like she is.
She was very confident.
Yeah.
And what gave her the confidence?
Girl power.
Empowerment.
Knowing the drill and ceremony?
Yeah.
So it's very important to the drill and ceremony to know it, to be proficient, to sort of teach the younger kids. I can see that could give a lot of confidence. That drill and ceremony, would you say, is a tool to develop patience and develop self-confidence?
Yeah.
Because you said that's the first thing that you learn at 5 years old coming in?
Self-confidence on the part of the student who has to learn these actually pretty complicated series of maneuvers with a rifle and also in terms of moving their feet. And the teacher has to have patience because it's usually a young kid. So both sides get something out of it.
I noticed from the uniforms, they're slightly different. You have a corporal with a white belt, and you have sergeants that have swords, I believe, and officers that have sabers. Can you tell me the difference in the uniforms?
Well, yes. So as you said before, we have sergeants that have normal swords and
Like this one.
yes, like the one that Aiden has. But the saber, as you can see, the difference is it has more of a curved blade and
has-
it's a little bit more a better hilt. Yes,
And it has a guard all around the hilt of the sword.
yes.
As the sword just has a guard on right below the blade.
And as they get higher in the ranks, they also start to wear this sash, this burgundy sash, to go underneath their belt to show their higher rank.
And I noticed that the Knickerbocker Greys has a uniform that is cadet gray, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about the color and why it's cadet gray and
Well,
the differences?
It's actually
the cadet gray comes from a mix of Confederate gray and Union blue, and those two colors together makes a cadet gray. And
So it's a neutral color.
yes, it's a very neutral color.
well, coming so soon after the Civil War, you don't want to inflame tensions by taking sides.
And why do they call the organization the Knickerbocker Greys?
Well, our older uniform used to consist of tall black leather boots and knickerbockers, which were knee-length pants, hence the knickerbockers in the name, and we wear cadet gray, hence the grays in the name, Knickerbocker Greys.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming here tonight to CB8 Speaks. It's been a pleasure to have you. I look forward to you coming again to the community board to talk about your organization. I'm sure your parents and your community is very proud of you. You show a lot of leadership to come here, a lot of confidence. And it's great to see young men and women working together at different ages. It's very good. And I'm glad you're keeping this tradition alive. A lot of organizations in New York City have gone to the side, but you've kept this organization strong for 135 years, and I hope you continue to. I look forward to you coming to the community board.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's it for CB8 Speaks, and I want to thank everybody for watching this episode. And if you're interested, go to their website, knickerbockergreys.org, or you can bring your child to the Armory every Tuesday between 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock. And again, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.